Okay, so we're live now on Facebook as well and Instagram. My live is not going to be so long today. I got a busy morning. Um, so let me introduce myself real quick. So my name is Aisha Chidole, and I'm an immigration attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, but I represent clients in all 50 states. We handle family immigration, humanitarian-based cases, removal cases, and detention work if you are detained. If you want to schedule a consultation, you can call our office, 678-325-1037 or 678-233-2170. You can also comment yes in the comment, and someone will reach out to you. What else did I want to say? You can also schedule a consult directly through our consultation link. Today, I wanted to talk about just some trends that we've noticed. Like I've been, with the new administration, like I like to do just kind of like see patterns or trends, every like quarter, just kind of what are we seeing, and whatever. So as we've come to the end of June, entered July, I kind of want to talk about some of the changes or trends that we've seen. So the first one is the speed in which people are being scheduled for marriage-based interviews. Like when I'm talking about speed, these are some of the fastest interviews that I have seen, since I started practicing immigration. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is people who file marriage-based cases in 2026, you're getting your interviews within 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. On Thursday, I posted 2 of our clients from 2 different countries that got their green cards in 4 months. They were scheduled for the interview in 3 months. And they actually had their interviews right before, so their interviews were scheduled in 3 months, and they had their interview right before the initial, when they were saying like everybody had to cancel the process or whatever. But they got their approvals last week. I had posted about those because I believe, in social proof. Like I don't just talk, like I like to show evidence of what it is I'm doing. And if you go into the results from Thursday, July 3rd on my post, you will see the dates we submitted versus the date they got their green cards approved. I prepped a client on Wednesday. We submitted her file on April 30th. On April 30th, her interview is tomorrow. Her interview is tomorrow. So that's May 30th is 1 month. June 30th is 2 months. Her interview, so basically 2.5 months. So if you are eligible for a marriage-based green card and you want to get out of this terrifying or terrific situation of I don't have status, what's going to happen to me, and you're eligible to file, you should be filing a marriage-based case, a family-based case. You should be filing it now because of the speed in which they are interviewing. And I know some attorneys have said, if you want your interview to be approved, your case to be approved quicker, to be scheduled for an interview quicker, don't file for a travel permit. So because of that, that's something I've also been studying in my firm, and I've not really seen any correlation with that. I have not seen any correlation with that at all. What I have seen is that these cases are just moving quickly. It doesn't matter whether or not you file a travel permit or not. Most of these cases, what's actually happening is that you're actually being scheduled for your interviews before you can even get your work permit or your travel permit. Because now part of the trend of work permits is that work permits are taking much longer, like 10 months, 11 months. Same thing with travel permits. Those are taking longer than other types of cases. Someone is asking, what about banned countries? So countries that are banned in the United States, the pause was only just lifted, and USCIS only just said on June 12th that they were going to start approving those cases. Again, I like to post when we get those approvals, which you can go and check on there. So I cannot yet give you a timeline because it's not been up to even 30 days to say, but I will tell you that they have started approving, i.e., like our clients from Nigeria, like they've started approving the work permits, travel permits. We're still waiting to see some of their green cards being approved, but I haven't seen any. I haven't looked at today's mail, so I can't say for a fact for those cases, but they have started approving those cases. They have started approving those cases. And as I've told you guys several times, if you're out of status, meaning not if you're out of status, if you're out of processing time, meaning your case, regardless of the ban, has passed what we would consider a normal processing time, and you have a pretty airtight case, you should be scheduling for congressional assistance or reaching out for congressional assistance so that they can make a decision on your case, because again, whenever there's something available, you don't know how long it's going to last. It keeps telling me that my Wi-Fi is shaky. So I don't know, on Instagram or Facebook, can you guys see me or hear me? Or do I keep pausing? I'm not sure if I keep pausing, but hopefully you guys can hear me. But if you are, if you do fall in any of those categories, you want to do your reach out. Somebody's asking about VAWA cases. Are they processing cases from September 2022? I will tell you that VAWA cases are extraordinarily delayed. They are all delayed right now because there's been a lot of talk about fraudulent cases, fraudulent lawyers. And so because of that, they are reviewing those cases with a fine-tooth comb. So expect a delay in your case. If you are traveling, one of the other trends is if you are traveling internationally and you have a VAWA application, well, first of all, you're probably better off not traveling, but fully expect that you will be interviewed for your VAWA case. And depending on your interview, you could be detained or you could be sent back. We had a client who had, I think I talked about this last week, who traveled, had a VAWA case, and came back into the United States, and he was supposed to be connecting from Texas to another state, and basically he was stopped at the airport. And thankfully, one of the things that we pride ourselves here in doing is that we give every client their application. Your submission is in your client portal. So he was sat down and they had him do his interview right there. He was able to log onto his client portal. He was able to bring his entire VAWA application. He was able to go over everything. In his interview, he was able to, and then, they searched the client's phone. So that is something to be mindful of if you are making an international trip. Personally, if I was applying right now, just because you don't know what the situation is, and they have you don't have a right to an attorney when you're in Customs and Border. So like an attorney cannot help you when you're in Customs and Border, just in case you guys don't know. Like once you are in Customs and Border, you have no right to counsel. So while you are in Customs and Border, you want to make sure that you are, what was I going to say? You want to make sure that you are, you have all your ducks in a row. Personally, if you don't have to travel, if you are a VAWA applicant, I wouldn't travel just because of the extraordinary scrutiny you experience. Someone is asking, is VAWA still working? Absolutely, VAWA is still working. That is a crazy question. Of course, VAWA is still working. You should apply for VAWA if you are a victim of abuse and extreme cruelty by a U.S. citizen spouse, parent, or child, and you meet the requirements. Having said that, USCIS is looking at every case with scrutiny. And I'm still talking about trend because I want you guys to understand that it's not just for this case. All cases are being looked at with extraordinary scrutiny. So it is very important that when you are thinking of submitting an immigration petition, that you are hiring a reputable counsel, a reputable firm that knows what it is that they're doing, that has done this case type, and that works consistently with these cases. Because there is no room for error anymore. There is no room for, I will fix it later. There is no room for, okay, will this be okay, or whatever it is. There's just no room for that anymore. The second trend that I'm seeing right now is if you have a joint I-751 filing or an N-400. An N-400 that is filed based on the 3-year rule. So let me explain that for people that don't know. An I-751 joint filing is for those who have a 2-year conditional green card. After 2 years, you're required to file an I-751 with your spouse. An N-400 is for naturalization to apply for citizenship. In order for you to apply for citizenship, you have to I just lost my train of thought. If in order for you to apply for citizenship within 3 years, you have to show that you're in marital union with your spouse. What are we seeing? We're seeing an increase in home visits. Home visits. What does that mean? It means that USCIS is coming to see you. They're coming to your house. They're coming to your job, because one of the requirements when you're filing a joint filing is that you, of course, still living in marital union with your spouse, both for the N-400 or the I-751. Again, this is why you need to make sure that you are working with a competent attorney. You keep your ducks in a row, and whatever it is that you need to know, in terms of your application submission. But basically, you could fully expect that you would be visited in your household. Now, are they doing it for everyone? I can't tell you, but is there an increase of this? Yes, there's an increase of this happening. So the other thing also, trend that I've also noticed is for address histories. One of the things USCIS is doing or using is that they are using Social Securities to check credits for address history. Are they doing it for everyone? Probably not. I don't know. But if there is a concern with the address history, someone has listed, what they're doing is that they're running those credit checks to see, because your credit usually will have like the list of where you live or where you've lived, or what address has been associated with you in any kind of credit or financial application they have. So they're also using that to check it. So those are some things that I have definitely observed over the last quarter. So you want to really just have your ducks in a row. The key is having your ducks in a row. As long as you have your ducks in a row, you should have nothing to fear. You should be able to apply for your application and get your approval, because again, people are getting approved very quickly in a marriage-based case. Someone asked a question about, is VAWA still working? Last week, I did post 2 green cards that were approved for a VAWA client. So you should go back to my timeline and check it. It's always good to check those timelines and check and zoom in, if you want, before, you ask those questions. So again, it is still working. It's just that, I will say all humanitarian-based cases, decisions right now are much slower than any other case type, just because of all the elements that they have to confirm that you meet in order for them to approve you, just because of the extra review that's happening. Someone is asking, what would you tell TPS holders? It's unfortunate, that TPS is coming to an end this week. What I would say is, if you are eligible for something else, apply. Apply for something else. If you're eligible based on asylum, apply. I don't handle asylum cases, so I don't. You would have to screen with an attorney to determine if you having that sudden termination of TPS changes your circumstances to justify a late filing. So if it justifies filing a late filing, they would be able to screen you and tell you whether or not that might be a category. But in the words of, what's his name again, Mark Wayne, the new secretary, find a way to get a permanent resident, or in his words, another visa, which clearly, you can see that he's just getting up to speed on learning about immigration himself. But, you just have to consult with an attorney to screen you to see if there are any other things that you might be eligible for. That's really it, at the end of the day, because, if you don't have that status, then you're out of status, which truly it's very, very unfortunate. So Um, why is an I-485 pending for months and the I-130 was approved? Anna Prodan, I can't answer the question. I don't know your case or what's going on with your case. Typically, an I-130 is confirming that you have a good faith marriage. An I-485 is admissibility. It's an admissibility petition. So it all really depends on your own immigration history and the background check that they're doing. If your I-130 was approved during the time where they put a pause on visas, which was April 27th, by now, if there are no issues, you should start seeing approvals. Because like I mentioned, one of our clients last week, actually, I'm going to check when her interview was. Let's see. Let me just see. Give me a second, guys, because I feel like her interview came just, when was her interview? Oh, actually, never mind. This client's interview was actually in June. Like I was checking my 2 clients that I posted on Thursday that got their green card. All their interviews were like in June. So you might want to, it depends on when your I-485 when your interview was. You might want to reach out. You might want to see, is there anything in your record that makes you inadmissible? Is there anything else that they might need to do supplemental background check for, or whatever. Can we travel locally with the pending application with only the receipt as proof of filing? If you're talking about via flight, I wouldn't travel on an airline if I don't have real ID. So if you don't have real ID, you shouldn't be flying. How long does it take to get approved for VAWA? Minimum right now 4 years. They are still working through 2022 cases. As a matter of fact, one of our clients who I just met with last week, her interview is this week. She filed her case January of 2022, and she's just doing her interview, her VAWA interview this week. So again, expect a delay while your case is pending. Just make sure that you're renewing your work permit, so at least you have your work permit while you're waiting on the decision. So yes, it might take a long time, but if you are eligible for a work permit, get a work permit, which is essentially one of the benefits of having a green card, which allows you to work. So same thing, even if your case is pending, you can file for a work permit and have the work permit while your case is pending. But again, these are taken longer, just like U visas, just like T visas. Again, asylum, any humanitarian-based case, those are just taking a really long time right now, I have a PFA against my ex-spouse, and it's a final order. Will that be a strong ground for me to get my 10-year green card? I'm currently extended for 36 months with 2 years conditional. Would need to speak with you to be able to give you an analysis, but hopefully you have submitted that. I don't know if you did a joint filing or if you did a waiver. All of that would have to be taken into account to determine where you fall. I'm a U.S. citizen and I petitioned for my kids for over 3 years, and it's still showing reviews. What do I do? It will depend on where your children are. Are your children here in the U.S. or are your children outside of the U.S.? Were you a U.S. citizen when you petitioned for your children? So all of those things would be things that I would want to know. But again, you can always comment yes, so someone can reach out to you or schedule a consultation with our office so we can see exactly where you are. When exactly did you become a U.S. citizen? What exactly did you file? I can't tell you how many people we consult with where they say, oh, they filed this, and after we look, we see that they filed the wrong application or the wrong category. In fact, someone on my live last week talked about it, where she filed a marriage-based case, but instead of just submitting the I-130, she also submitted an I-129F with the application, and that was the basis of her. That was the basis of USCIS's confusion. So It does happen where sometimes the delay is caused by you inadvertently because you didn't know what you were doing or whatever it is. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. And sometimes it delays USCIS. Yeah, I don't know. My Wi-Fi is just keeps pausing on my own end. If it continues to pause, I'm gonna have to jump off. Um, Okay, with the pause on spousal visas, what can I do as my husband's case was documentary qualified last year and he hasn't received an interview date? Danielle, time is your friend. Him not having received an interview date is a good thing. This is where the delay is better than denial, because what will happen is he will go to the interview and they will not be able to approve it. So the fact that he hasn't been scheduled an interview is actually a wonderful thing. So it doesn't waste his time. So the goal is that his interview is delayed to the point of where they lift the pause so that when he does the interview, they can approve him. So it's not a bad thing. I wouldn't force or push for an interview if an interview is not going to give you the desired outcome, which is until the pause is lifted on the consulate side, they can. So this is a situation where that's okay. Can someone self-deport? It's your personal choice. If you are in removal proceedings, you want to do it through voluntary departure through a judge. Otherwise, if you leave the country, you've been out of status, you're looking at a 10-year bar, or in some cases, a permanent bar. It just depends on what the situation is. So, speak with a lawyer and find out what your options are. Does USCIS approve your marriage interview on the spot, and is having a child together strong proof that the marriage is a bona fide one? USCIS no longer approves your marriage on the spot. They might say, oh, okay, I don't see any issues. I'll let you know, whatever it is. One of the things that the officer told us or has told me, or officers have told me in interviews that, before they could just approve it and, you're getting that approval in the mail. But there's so many, there's so much bureaucracy right now that there's so many checks, so many system checks before they can, Now, have we seen cases still that get approved the very next day? Yeah, we have seen cases that get approved the very next day. But again, I've always said this, I don't care when an officer tells me we're going to approve your case. I need to see the approval to believe it. So I don't care what you got to say. I need to see action. It's the same thing I always say, if I tell you that we got a certain result, like, you guys don't want to hear that, you want to see it. And that's why you guys go on those results to see it and confirm if you fall under those categories, because at the end of the day, until I see that stamp of approval, I don't care what an officer's opinion is. I want to know, are you approving it or not? Has the approval happened? So that should be the focus. Now, your next question is having a child together strong proof that the marriage is bona fide? The answer is going to be that it depends. In the past, yeah, but now sometimes officers are doubtful. It just depends on the circumstances. Sometimes officers want a DNA. Sometimes it's clear that it's the child or the children. So having a child should never be the only submission that you have. You should have other things that make it more likely than not that is your child together, and that you have other evidence of good faith marriage. How can I bring my child from the United States that lives in Dominican Republic? If you are a U.S. citizen, then you have to file for the child. But the question is going to be, you said your baby. So was the child already? So the question is going to be, did your child become a U.S. citizen at birth? When your child was born, were you a U.S. citizen? Because if you were a U.S. citizen, then your child is automatically a U.S. citizen. And you can just do the child birth registration in the consulate that's closest to you. All right, guys, I got to jump off. But I hope you guys have a great day. Again, schedule consultation. Stop asking questions that are so specific to you that everybody knows your business. Schedule consultation with an attorney I'll be happy to evaluate your case in particular, in your immigration history, to either give you strategies or give my recommendations or assessment. Our number here is 678-325-1037 or 678-233-2170. You can also comment yes, and someone will reach out to you, or you can schedule it yourself on our website. All right, guys, have a great day, and I will chat with you all